What's going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link. Another week has come and gone, and this week at Bungie, we got the release of Season 13, the Season of the Chosen. Empress Keitel has finally made her appearance in the world of Destiny 2, and we got some new content, new weapons, new exotics, and more to play with over the course of the week. And of course, with it being a Thursday, that means we've got another issue of the Bungie Weekly blog this week at Bungie to cover. Now this one, of course, is going to be notoriously light on information, thanks to the fact that we got a rather large patch earlier this week. If you happen to miss any of the big updates that came as a part of that patch that brought us Season 13, I'll have a link to some of that stuff down in the description box below, as well as a link to the TWAB. But of course, with this being an all-new season of content, that means we've got a brand new content release schedule to follow. And so, for any of you Guardians who might have missed everything that's going to be coming with Season of the Chosen, let's do a quick recap. On February 9th, we of course had the release of the Behemoth and Hailstone Battlegrounds, as well as the return of the Devil's Lair and Fallen Saber Strikes on Earth. Additionally, we got access to the brand new social space, The Helm in the Tower. Now, additionally, we had some new Stasis Aspect quests begin on the 9th as well. So make sure you go and visit Elsie Bray on Europa to pick up those new quests. Out of that, we've got Trials coming this weekend, starting at February 12th. And of course, Trials is going to bring new armor, weapons, and more. We'll be talking a little bit about at least one of the weapons that we'll be gaining later in this video. On the 16th, we're getting a new aspect of Battlegrounds titled The Cleansing. And then, on February 23rd, we've got the Oracle Battleground going live, as well as the Iron Banner. Jumping forward a month later, on March 23rd, we'll have the Proving Ground Strike opening up for Season Pass owners, as well as the return of the Iron Banner. And then, a few days later, on March 30th, the Proving Ground Strike will enter the playlist for all players of Destiny 2. It's also going to be the Nightfall that week. After that, on April 13th, we've got the return of Iron Banner once again. And then from April 20th until May 9th, we have the Guardian Games event returning. Hopefully with a bit more to do this time around than what we had last year. And that's set to have its closing ceremonies from May 7th until the 9th. And there we go. That's a quick look at the content release schedule we're going to have here in Season of the Chosen. Of course, alongside this, we got a bunch of new weapons, a bunch of new armor, some new exotics, some new Lost Sector Master challenges, and of course, new Nightfalls and all that kind of stuff. We also had the release of Nightfall-specific rewards like the Shadow Price, the Palindrome, and the Swarm, which will be on a weekly rotation for availability within the Nightfall playlist. But anyways, now that we've caught up on all of that, let's dive on into some of the big parts of the TWAB. First things first, Bungie's got a section titled Patch Notes Stragglers. It's basically a section for things that didn't make it into the patch notes earlier this week. And in particular, we've got a couple of updates to go over that you might have noticed if you've played it all this week. First off, for rituals, they've removed Hawthorne's Red War era dialogue when completing her clan challenge. You know, the you never quit dialogue, that's gone now. And players can now turn in gunsmith materials 100 mats at a time, and Vanguard tokens 20 mats at a time, which is enough to get you a full rank. So one-click ranks are finally here, and it makes things so much faster when you're just plinking away at those vendor screens. Next up, we've got changes to reputation. Valor, Glory, and Infamy rank-up banners are now at the bottom of the screen, no longer blocking players from taking actions in orbit when hitting a new rank. Thank you. Massive quality of life change there from Bungie. And additionally, Valor, Glory, and Infamy values are now available on the main director screen for the ritual. Out of that, of course, we got an update to Gambit. They've reworked the moat system for more reliable gathering. I will say, after having played over the course of the week, I haven't necessarily noticed this actually working. I still played Gambit and noticed the weird kind of funky issues where you just can't pick up a moat for some reason. So hopefully that sort of thing kind of irons itself out as we move forward. Then we've got changes to the Crucible. For Iron Banner, they've removed the skill-based matchmaking listing from the Iron Banner tooltip. It's been using connection-based matchmaking along with the rest of the Crucible since June of 2020. For Survival, life count has been changed from 6 to 4, and respawn time has been changed from 7 seconds to 5 seconds, consistent with rule set prior to Beyond Light. Meaning those survival matches are probably going to go a little bit faster now. Next up, changes for the new Light experience. For the quest A Guardian Rises, destroying the spider tank during the Divide phase will now progress the directive by a full 50%. And they fixed an issue where veteran accounts that start a new character could not progress or dismiss some tutorials. Then for the Schism mission, they fixed an issue where players could jump through a window during the Novota vignette and block their own mission progress. Finally, for Cold Boot, they fixed an issue for veteran characters playing the new light quest that would cause the legendary weapon tutorial to persist through the entire mission. Now, we've got some changes to the way you get Risk Runner, which of course is a part of the revamped New Light experience. Bungie has fixed an issue where players with full energy weapon inventory slots would have Risk Runner sent to the Postmaster upon pickup. And the weapon now drops as an exotic engram during the mission, allowing players to clear room in their inventories if they wish to pick up their Risk Runner immediately. Finally, with the Forsaken campaign, they fixed an issue where players would see a quest full message when trying to start the Forsaken campaign, forcing them to find and pick up the quest at the quest archive in the tower before proceeding. And there we go, that's it for the patch notes that didn't make it into the greater patch notes that we got earlier this week. But it's not the only bit of news that we have to talk about. Of course, with the release of Season 13, Season of the Chosen, we got the return of even more stuff from D1's Cosmodrome, particularly the Devil's Lair Strike and the Fallen Saber Strike. This, of course, led to speculation about whether or not we were going to be getting additional parts of the Cosmodrome back in the world of D2, especially when the conversation centers around the notion of the Plague Lands, which were introduced in Destiny 1's expansion, Rise of Iron. Well, I'm gonna cut this section short. Essentially, Bungie is tempering expectations and kind of pulling back on some of the notions there. No, basically no, we're not going to be getting the Plague Lands. We're not going to be getting any additional strikes in the Cosmodrome. So none of the strikes like the, I can't remember what the name of it was, but the Giant Ogre. It was the worst strike in Destiny 1. I'm not at all mad to not see it make its way into D2. But in this section, they basically confirmed that they're mostly done expanding upon the Cosmodrome and bringing stuff back for it, which I find mostly okay. I wasn't really expecting the Plague Lands to come back. It didn't need to come back unless they were just specifically going to be bringing back the Archon's Forge, because I love that activity. But other than that, there was really no reason to expand all the way with the Plague Lands. The only weird question I have about this is the fact that the current version of the Cosmodrome that we have right now conspicuously cuts off the Rocket Yard, which was an original section from the Cosmodrome back in D1. It's the kind of area, it's the area you start the Devil's Lair Strike in. And it's really weird to me that you don't have that section available in patrols when we know the assets for that area are already playable in the game because, again, it's where you start out in the Devil's Lair. I don't know why Bungie just doesn't allow us to have that section of the Cosmodrome back. I can understand them not wanting to bring in some of the DLC aspects of the Cosmodrome. There's no reason to bring that. Again, the Plague Lands, we don't really need to go back there. But the Rocket Yard was an original part of the Cosmodrome. And again, the assets are already in the game. We already have that world space to play in when we're playing the Devil's Lair Strike. Why not just make it available in patrol missions so we can have that full loop of the Cosmodrome back? And I don't know, it's just kind of an odd choice to me. But anyways, Bungie finishes this section by saying they will continue to use the Destiny Content Vault to drive variety in the live game in the future. The Cosmodrome was our first big push, and later this year, the Vault of Glass will return. We'll share more later this year, and of course, I'm hoping that with Vault of Glass's return, it also means that the landscape of Venus is going to be made available to D2 players as well. Looking forward to it. But alright, beyond that, we just have a few other notions of news to talk about. In particular, we've got a couple of exotic issues going on right now. If you're a Titan who's used the Dune Marchers, you'll probably have noticed that the linear actuator perk is no longer activating. Like, you just can't get that perk to actually work in the game right now. And of course, for those of you out there who actually have the raid exotic, Eyes of Tomorrow, the exotic rocket launcher, if you've used it after the update went live, you probably noticed it's dealing way less damage than it should be, somewhere like 40 to 50% less damage than what it should be doing. Bungie is apparently aware of this issue and they are looking at it behind the scenes. I'd imagine it has to do with like some of the finer tuning they were trying to do when they bumped up rocket damage by 30%. We already know Eyes of Tomorrow has some kind of weird coding tied to it that lessened the amount of damage it did to like raid enemy or raid bosses and stuff like that. So hopefully they can get that all figured out. However, if you're looking for a rocket launcher to use in the interim, let me recommend one that has been slept on for a long time because it was admittedly terrible. Two-Tailed Fox. That thing got a major buff with Season of the Chosen, and it is one of my favorite weapons to use right now. Between its impact and explosive damage, plus the effects of burn and suppression that it can put on bosses and all kinds of surrounding enemies, You mix that with something like the Argent Ordnance mod, and this thing is just dealing tons of damage all across the game. Definitely worth trying out if you've got the chance. But alright Guardians, that is pretty much it for the biggest bits of news contained in this week's issue of the Bungie Weekly blog, This Week at Bungie. But before we get on out of here, there was one last thing I did want to talk about, and that of course has to do with Trials of Osiris, which is going live tomorrow, February 12th. In addition to the new armor that's going to be tied to the game mode, we've got new and returning weapons, including the return of the Messenger, a legendary weapon from years past. And the Messenger's going to have a pretty interesting perk pool. We actually got to get a little bit of a sneak peek at this here at the very end of the TWAB. If you take a look here, eagle-eyed D2 players will recognize a very particular perk on this Messenger. Nah, that ain't Outlaw at the end there. That's Desperado, which was the perk that was previously exclusive to the original Crucible Pinnacle weapon, Redrix's Claymore. It was a very, very powerful perk that really didn't see much use because Redrix really had limited usage. So I'm really happy to see that it's making its way into the perk pool for Trials weapons. That's going to be nutty. Hopefully I can get my hands on one. But alright Guardians, that is it for this one. That's the news and those are my thoughts. Be sure to leave me yours down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. That's going to be it for this one guys. As always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.